Hello, I'm Czardus, and this is the Chicago History Project, where we are telling the story of Chicago through Cities Skylines. In today's video, we are going to build the initial grid layout of the city from Thompson's Plat of 1830. In the last episode, we saw the Battle of Fort Dearborn destroy the fort and the non indigenous residents flee the region during the War of 1812. The war ended in 1815, and while the U.S. significantly decreased the size of its standing army, it did rebuild Fort Dearborn. The second Fort Dearborn was similar to the first, consisting of a double wall of wooden palisades, officer and enlisted barracks, a garden, and other buildings. In 1816, the United States and the leaders of the Council of Three Fires agreed to the Treaty of St. Louis, under which the native peoples ceded all right to lands 10 miles north and 10 miles south of the mouth of the Chicago River, thus officially granting title in the land to the United States. In exchange for the land that would later become the city of Chicago, the native peoples who signed the treaty were given a paltry sum of $1,000 in merchandise over the next 12 years. Meanwhile, the U.S. planned to give away the land in grants to volunteers for their service in the War of 1812. Today, Indian Boundary Park and Rogers Avenue on the north side of Chicago mark the treaty line. Following the reconstruction of the fort, several residents returned, including John and Eleanor Kinsey. The settlement in many ways resembled how it was before the war, but at the same time the region was changing dramatically. In the 1820s, the U.S. saw the beginnings of some very significant westward expansion. Steamboats were running on the Mississippi and the Great Lakes, making the Chicago portage become an even more interesting trade route. Around the same time, the construction of the Erie Canal in New York had a massive impact on the economy. Construction began in 1817 and it was completed in 1825, with the result being a reduction in travel time between New York City and Chicago from 6 weeks to only 2 to 3 weeks. This made it so much easier for not only goods to be shipped between New York and the Great Lakes, but for people to move westward as well. The success of the Erie Canal also helped lead to the construction of the Illinois and Michigan Canal, which connected Lake Michigan to the Illinois River through the Chicago portage. In 1816, a young engineer named Stephen Long, who later in life would be instrumental in the construction of the railroads, did the first topographic land survey to help determine the feasibility of the canal. In 1818, Nathaniel Pope, then serving as U.S. representative of the Illinois Territory, and Ninian Edwards, governor of the Illinois Territory, used the prospect of a canal to convince the U.S. government to grant Illinois statehood before it met population requirements. At the same time, they had the northern state line moved from its previous proposed location at the southernmost point of Lake Michigan to its current border with Wisconsin in order that the entire canal could be within a single state. So, if it weren't for the canal project, Chicago would have ultimately been located in Wisconsin. In 1822, Congress gave Illinois its official authorization to build the canal. Then, in 1824, Samuel Lockwood officially surveyed the route for the canal, and in 1827, Congress divided out some land along the route to be sold to raise funds for its construction. At the same time, the U.S. was continuing to pursue even more land treaties with the native peoples. In 1829, under the Second Treaty of Prairie du Chien, the Council of Three Fires gave up rights to the land north of the boundary from the Treaty of St. Louis, including what is now Evanston, Wilmette, and about half of Chicago. To move forward with the canal project, the Canals Commission hired James Thompson to survey and plat two towns, one on each end of the canal. Thompson and his crew started at the planned western end of the canal, platting out the town of Ottawa, then traveled to the mouth of the Chicago River to prepare a plat for the planned town of Chicago. Thompson's plat covered an area less than a square mile, but at the time that was much more space than the town's small population needed. He divided the area into a grid, with the fork of the Chicago River approximately at the center. The streets were exactly 66 feet wide because that was the length of his chain, and as part of the project, Thompson was able to name the streets. The names he chose included Washington and Jefferson, which led to the city council assuming for decades that he had intended for streets to be named after presidents. But the reality is that several of the names he chose were taken from the counties in southern Illinois, which was where he lived. These included Washington, Jefferson, Randolph, Madison, Franklin, Clinton, and Union. Thompson finished his plat map in August of 1830, returning to his home in Randolph County in southern Illinois, serving as a judge and surveying several other towns, but none grew the way Chicago did. If you've liked this video, please leave a comment or consider becoming a Patreon supporter. With your support, I hope the project will end up being great. Also, be sure to click to watch the video on the screen now. I'm sure you'll enjoy it too.